Hello and welcome back to the Place to Be Reviews. I'm Etep and right here with all of you. I'd like to thank all 114 of my subscribers. Thank you so much for helping me grow the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet and you're watching one of my videos for the first time, please consider subscribing. Help us grow the channel and the brand further as we have a lot in the works. The Batwoman video from last week, I'm sorry guys, I've been extremely busy this week with just family related things. This week is shaping up to be back to normal somewhat. I still have some things to do family wise, but yeah, you guys will be getting more videos than just one Batwoman review on Monday, I promise. That editing and everything took a long time, but we're not here to talk about that right now. We're here to talk about why Ant-Man 3 might be Disney's most important post-Endgame Avengers Marvel movie by Scott Mendelson. Scott Mendelson. Oy vey. Alright, so Peyton Reed's coming back to direct this. We got word yesterday, courtesy of The Hollywood Reporter, that Peyton Reed will be returning to direct a third Ant-Man movie. Details are obviously scarce, but the goal is for a 2022 release, joining Chadwick Boseman and Ryan Coogler's Black Panther 2 on May 6th, and at least one other MCU movie for the year. Presuming the July 29th, 2022 is the slot for Ant-Man 3, then the question is what will drop on February 18th, 2022. It's a slight surprise that we're getting a third Paul Rudd Evangeline Lilly Ant-Man movie, both because the franchise is among the lower grossing MCU properties and because the whole time jump plot line of the Russo brothers' last two Avengers films did a real number on Peyton Reed's franchise continuity. Here's what it means. It's counting on a big boost from China. First, yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp was the rare MCU movie that kind of sort of needed the Chinese boost to soar to franchise-appropriate heights. By any rational standard, a $160 million sequel that earned $620 million worldwide and $216 million domestic is a solid result from a predecessor that earned $180 million domestic and $519 worldwide on a $130 million budget. Yes, it was a little surprising to see the franchise still be somewhat lesser in terms of popularity, even after the MCU growth shown in Phase 3 by Doctor Strange, $677 million, Guardians 2, $869 million, Thor Ragnarok, $854 million, and to say nothing of obviously Black Panther, $1.346 billion, and Avengers Infinity War, $2.048 billion with a B. For what it's worth, $125 million of Ant-Man and the Wasp's gross came from China, a record at the time for a non-Avengers superhero flick, and the start of an upsurge in popularity for superhero movies in China, which saw Venom, $269 million, Aquaman, $298 million, Captain Marvel, $154 million, and Spider-Man Far From Home, $206 million. Wonder why. Soar above their respective predecessor peers. I'd wager that the China jumped with the presumption that a third Ant-Man would do at least as well here as abroad as the last film was part of the calculation. Moreover, there's a value in having a kid-friendly MCU movie that is a bit more guilt-free babysitter on Disney Plus versus Iron Man 3 or Thor Ragnarok. It and Black Panther 2 will have deal with the fallout. It and Black Panther 2. That is just worded so fucked up, Mendelson. It and Bland will have to deal with the fallout from Avengers Endgame is what you're trying to say there, dumbass. Fucking Mendelson. While Ant-Man and the Wasp were kid-friendly family comedy starring Paul Rudd as a benevolent thief turned reluctant superhero who was trying to do right by his young daughter, the time jump and Thanos snap changed the game. Now preteen Cassie Lang, Abby Ryder Fortson, is teen Cassie Lang, Emma Furman, a young woman who spent the last 5 years presuming her dad had been snapped into oblivion. We never found out whether Cassie's Judy Greer and Cassie's mom, Judy Greer, and stepfather, Bobby Cannavale, got blipped, so the extent to which Cassie's last 5 years were filled with trauma and misery is still up in the air. Either way, Avengers Endgame turned what was Marvel's lightest franchise into potentially one of its darkest. I don't know how Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame will impact the tone of that third Ant-Man movie, but A, most audiences won't care if it somewhat brushes off the consequences. B, I'm sure Reed has little interest in a grind-mark Ant-Man flick that is preoccupied with Scott Lang and Cassie Lang coping with the circumstances of their separation. Moreover, what's interesting, at least to me, is that both Black Panther 2 and Ant-Man 3 will be the sequels most explicitly impacted by the events of Avengers Endgame. T'Challa had been on the throne for 2 years before getting blipped for another 5 years. Endgame seems to imply that it was a peaceful retransition of power, but, well, Peyton Reed will become one of the rare superhero directors to complete a trilogy, and good for him. I really enjoyed the Ant-Man movies. If I may take a moment here to editorialize on this, I don't want this video to go on too long, but yeah, I enjoyed Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. I didn't mind more inclusion of the Wasp being included more in the second one, because I really like Evangeline Lilly, and I have since Lost. So, and I think her and Paul Rudd had really good chemistry, so it was cool. Peyton Reed will become one of the rare directors to complete a trilogy. So good for him. That'll be nice. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to this. I'm glad they decided to do a cinematic release as opposed to a Disney Plus series or just shelving it indefinitely. Like I reported on months ago that they were just going to shelve it because that was the plan. So the other interesting thing is that with Peyton Reed returning for a second sequel, Ant-Man becomes the first MCU trilogy to get the same filmmaker for all 3 installments. Jon Favreau directed Iron Man and Iron Man 2. Before Shane Black took over for Iron Man 3, while Kenneth Branagh's Thor and Alan Taylor's Thor The Dark World were followed by Taco Tuesday's Thor Ragnarok, and his upcoming Thor, Kevin Thor Love and Legumes. Joe Johnston directed Captain America The First Avenger, while the Russo brothers helmed Captain America The Winter Soldier, which was amazing, and Captain America Civil War, which was good. Finishing out, so basically that was Avengers like 2.5. The Winter Soldier, Civil War before finishing out the Infinity Saga, Infinity War, and Endgame. Presuming the rumor becomes fact, John Watts will helm the MCU's 3 Sony Spider-Man movies. Had things gone according to plan, then this summer would have likely seen James Gunn's third Guardians of the Galaxy opening the summer and becoming the first same director MCU trilogy. But while he's technically on board for a third flick, the release date is up in the air while he helms the DC films The Suicide Squad. But it is what it is. I hate that. And now Peyton Reed, why would you say that in an article? Peyton Reed, the guy who was brought in after Marvel and Edgar Wright parted ways, becomes the rare director to complete his singular superhero trilogy. He joins Sam Raimi, Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3, and Chris Nolan, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises in a somewhat rare club. The solo MCU movies are evolving into filmmaker-driven franchises. Even if you count John Watts' Spider-Man movies, since Watts will probably sign on the dotted line and Spider-Man 3 will presumably open June 16, 2021, before Ant-Man 3 is the first single-director MCU trilogy, it all points to an encouraging trend. Without getting too much into the whole filmmaker-driven debate, for the first batch of MCU movies, as the standalone movies have become standalone franchises, we are beginning to see aggressively altruistic offerings. Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp are absolutely Peyton Reed movies. With their optimistic dispositions, the computer wore tennis shoes, sensibilities, and Fantastic Four, Hank Pym equals Mr. Fantastic, Janet Van Dyne equals the Invisible Woman, Hope Pym, the Human Torch, and Paul Rudd as the Thing, retrofitting. Guardians of the Galaxy is absolutely a James Gunn franchise, complete with subtext or outright text concerning unlovable folks learning to give and receive love while coping with failed relationships and childhood trauma. The Thor movies are being shaped toward Taco Tuesday's sensibilities, and it's hard to imagine a successful Love and Legumes not producing another installment down the line. Scott Derrickson's Doctor Strange movies will presumably go further into horror and spirituality, while Ryan Coogler's Black Panther is a specific directorial vision as Shane Black's Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3, what a mess. Whether Ant-Man 3 turns Cassie Lang into stature and becomes a Young Avengers backdoor pilot, Ant-Man 3 will almost certainly be a Peyton Reed flick through and through. Yes, it's possible that Ant-Man 3 will take place long after Avengers Endgame to merely pick up after most of the wounds have healed, and it's entirely possible that the implicit reason for the film is to set up the Young Avengers. That would be ironic, as it would take Marvel's smallest, least quote-unquote important franchise, the one usually offered as a palate cleanser after a huge mythology episode, and make the third film into the most must-see solo MCU flick since Captain America Civil War. It would also signal that while the Disney Plus television shows may play into the broader MCU narrative, the big must-see events would still happen in the movies. We'll find out soon enough. Nobody wants to follow you on Twitter, Scott Mendelson. Check out my website. No, thank you. Okay, so Ant-Man 3. Like I said, they were reporting that this was shelved and there was going to be no more cinematic release for Ant-Man. It was gone. But alas, I think that some of this has to be due to fans and people like myself who just don't like the general direction of Phase 5, where it's going. Phase 4 and Phase 5. After the lackluster response that they got at D23 and San Diego Comic-Con to the, well, not D23 because they're all sycophants there. It's just all Disney employees. But at San Diego Comic-Con, there was just kind of a less than... I mean, of course, everybody there, freaked out about the announcements, but they were lackluster overall. The broader spectrum of the fan base was just kind of like underwhelmed by it. So I think some of this would be maybe a course correction. But they're still going to do that Young Avengers. Like I said, could be the vehicle for a backdoor pilot for the Young Avengers, setting up Cassie Lang. I don't know. Am I looking forward to that? No. Will I go see the next Avengers movie? Absolutely. I can't not now at this point. I'm not going to go see every MCU movie that comes out. I will be going to see Black Widow, most definitely. The Eternals, no, not even a chance in hell of me watching that one until it comes out on Blu-ray. Or, whatever. I can stream it for free. But yeah, there's a lot of entertainment to be consumed. And I am getting Disney Plus. I'm not paying for it. I'm getting it for free because of my Verizon plan. So I will be reviewing The Mandalorian. You guys just stay tuned for another video. What do you think? Like I said, I enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp. To say that they underperformed at 5 and 600 million respectively, were over that amount worldwide, is just kind of funny. Especially when they more than doubled their budget initial cost, production cost. So I see no issue there with it. People respond well to Paul Rudd. He's a huge star. People love Paul Rudd, myself included. Even the shitty Friday the 13th movie, Halloween movie he was in, is entertaining, but no, I really enjoy these movies. The Ant-Man, like I said, the Ant-Man trilogy now, Peyton Reed, it's just an optimistic, upbeat tale, and the supporting cast is great too. You can't forget, his little crew. So I'm hoping they're still around, T.I. and Carlos Pena, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but yeah, all funny guys. Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly have great chemistry. I'm sure Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer will be coming back, so it'll be an interesting movie. So yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Please be sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Help us grow and bring you more entertainment. Stay tuned because there's another video coming up soon. And with that being said, I'm Etep Queen of the Place to Be Reviews. And if I don't see you, remember, have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow.